Always true.
We ask the questions.
What is needed in the world?
Is that going to be?
South Sudan, not a failed state, but hardly a stable country. A vicious civil war broke out in late 2013, leaving tens of thousands dead, hundreds of thousands displaced, and an economy in ruins. There's no money, and a deal with international donors has yet to be implemented. Machar's delayed but much publicised return should mean a positive working relationship with his arch-rival, President Salva Kiir. The key question, can they work together? Today on Talk to Al Jazeera, we're inside the presidential compound in Juba, the capital of South Sudan. We're going to bring together the President and the First Vice President, Salva Kiir and Riek Machar. The same question to both of them. What can you do to solve the many problems facing what is the world's youngest country? How would you describe that relationship between yourself and Mr. Machar?
Well, we are friends, and we have been friends for many years. Until when this incident happened in 2013. But after putting everything right, Mr. Machar joined me, and we are now working together again. We are friendly, to say so.
Your critics would say that you're not displaying enough unity at the moment. How do you get more unified so you can begin to solve the problems facing your country?
We are unified now. What is seen by the outsiders is whatever they would want to see, and they would want to say whatever they want to say. But as the government of national unity, we are functioning smoothly. Yesterday we were in the Council of Ministers.
According to figures that we've got from the African Union, the United Nations, I'm assuming these figures have been sanctioned by your own government. You have refugee and asylum seekers as a direct result of what's happened in this country that now number a staggering 850,677. That's the number of people directly affected, on top of which 180,000 people are crammed into refugee camps inside the borders of what is the world's youngest country. And there's a litany of issues that you and he have to work together to solve. In real terms, in practical terms, what are you doing to solve those issues? There's no money in the system.
Right, that you brought that question of money. Because whenever there are displaced people or there are refugees, the solution is always money, so that you can settle them, and then you get them food, medicines, everything, so that they live comfortably, whether they are your citizens or foreigners. So our problem is money. We have no money.
Your line seems to be, we have no money. You want money from international donors, which is a perfectly fair claim on your part. The donors, however, say, we will not give you money until you get genuine security and stability. That's the starting point. So if that's the starting point, what do you do to get stability and security?
When you deal with a hungry person, don't expect that hungry person to be listening to whatever you are saying. How matter nice words that you will tell him or tell her, will be thinking of his stomach. And the international community have been shifting their goalposts from the beginning. They said they cannot help the government unless you sign the agreement. We signed the agreement in August last year. They said again that we will not assist your government until you formed the transitional government of national unity. And that has been our problem. Dr. Riek Machar refused to come to South Sudan. He stayed outside. He might have been assuming that if he doesn't come, there will be no support to the government from the international community, and the government will fall, because the saying was that there is no money. So Riek Machar did not come back to South Sudan until April this year.
Forgive me for interrupting you, Mr. President, and I apologize, but that's an answer to a slightly different question. The food shortages are so severe, you're very close to having what the UN would officially term as being near starvation levels. What are you doing to solve those problems? You can't walk down the street without seeing somebody with a gun. We've done it. How do you balance the number of weapons in your society with your desire to get peace? Peace and, I assume, reconciliation, because it seems to me that what you want to do is achieve peace, but not put people on trial. Surely that has to happen if you are to put a lid on the bubbling tension that exists here.
Well, there is nobody that will really say that you don't want to try people. If these are people who have committed crimes, they must be tried. We were fighting for justice. In the last 21 years when we were fighting, we fought with the Sudan government for 21 years because there was no justice. So if we come to become independent and we don't apply justice onto our people, then what was the reason for us fighting and making many heroes to fall victims in the battlefields? Let the people forgive one another, and they remain as one people in one nation.
Would you accept
After that, if there are people accused of these crimes, they can be taken for trial. And
where would the trials happen?
Well, trials can happen in South Sudan.
Some people are saying that between now and the elections, they make the same observation of yourself and also Riek Machar. They say that you are spinning your wheels politically and diplomatically, and you need to deliver on something between now and then. What's your message to them?
Myself and Riek Machar have a program. The agenda of the transitional government of national unity is what I'm telling you. Bring peace among the people, reconcile them, and then after that, when people talk about money, that you need the support from the international community, we said, okay. The international community says that, you have to cut down your expenditures because you are paying a huge budget to the army. I said, yes, but this is not the time to do it. Dr. Riek Machar is coming in with a very huge human power, force coming with him. Now, if we have settled to be having a permanent peace, then these forces the national army and the rebel forces will have to be integrated together.
You obviously have a good, positive, arguably productive relationship with the first Vice President, Riek Machar. Do you feel threatened by him?
I don't feel threatened as a person. I don't feel threatened.
If you had agreed to be interviewed with Mr. Machar on camera today, what would be your central message to him and to the people in this country who support him before they support you?
Well, I don't want to predict the message, because we were told that when we go to the press, we must go to the press with a coordinated message, agreed message.
Who told
This
you
is
that?
what
You're the president. Who is
No.
there to tell you this?
We are, where are you coming from? You are the people who are telling us that you do this or do that. I'm now just like a child, being ordered by everybody.
What's your message to Riek Machar?
When you preach messages of hate, probably you are to divide the people. And the messages which were being preached during the conflict, especially by Mr. Machar, were a message that can divide people for good. So even if I appeal to them, there were so many people who were left inside. They did not join Riek Machar, although being from his tribe. The problem that we are not moving smoothly on the implementation of the agreement are the issues, the way the agreement was designed. And when I signed this agreement in August last year, I said it in front of the presidents of IGAD. I told them that this agreement was not made to be implemented.
So you signed up to an agreement that you believed was essentially wrong. It was essentially...
It was wrong.
It was broken before it started.
It was wrong because even to sign it was a problem. They said if there is a wrong sentence in English, don't correct it. Don't put a comma or a full stop.
Do you absorb or take on board any of the blame for what's happened in this country?
Well, I did many times that I have stood up in front of my people, in front of all the cameras, to tell the people of South Sudan that I'm sorry. Had we not behaved the way we were behaving as the leadership of this country, we could have not thrown our people into this meaningless war. And that I'm working hard to see into it that peace comes back to our country. I said it many times. I apologize to the people many times. Not because I was the one who started it, but being the leader of the country, I have to apologize.
Mr. President, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for joining us on Talk to Al Jazeera. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
No, thank you.
You're most welcome.
Thank you. No. And so that was our interview with Salva Kiir. We've now had the, quite honestly, surreal experience of driving way up into the hills of Juba, into this heavily fortified compound that is the home of the first Vice President, Riek Machar. We're going to put those comments from the President to the first Vice President. April the 26th this year, what made you come back home?
I came to Juba. I was at home. I was in South Sudan. But I came through Gambela, which is an Ethiopian territory. So what made me come back home is because I came to implement the agreement, which I signed on the 17th of August, 2015. So I came to implement that.
When you talk about that agreement, Salva Kiir, the president, has just told this program in the past hour that that agreement is flawed, it will not work, and he said at the time it will not work.
Well, he hasn't told me that because we have been discussing the implementation of it. So I expect he will respect this bargain in the agreement.
What does that mean when you say you expect him to respect what's written into the agreement? What are you expecting him to do?
Implement it by the spirit and the letter of the agreement. Because the agreement is a roadmap, first for reform and for establishing a new system of governance in the country, which will lead us to democratic elections. And this is the aspiration of the people of South Sudan. They want, after independence, they want democratic elections to take place.
Is part of that, or does part of that, by definition almost, have to be truth and reconciliation? And if it is, how do you achieve it?
Chapter 7 will be implemented by establishing three institutions. One, Truth, Reconciliation and Healing Commission, which is very important to the people and to everybody. The other is compensation and reparation for the losses that had happened during the war. Third is justice and accountability by establishing a hybrid court, which will include South Sudanese and the rest. Peace without justice and accountability is not possible in this country. We cannot condone impunity.
When you have a meeting with Salva Kiir, how much real power do you feel you have at your disposal?
My functions and responsibilities are stipulated in the agreement. And within these stipulated functions and responsibilities, we discussed. There are issues where we will need consensus, and if we don't have consensus, we take it to the Council of Ministers. And if we fail, we resort to those who mediated the agreement.
But given what Salva Kiir says about the agreement, that sounds like a very tortuous chasing your tail process, which ends in nothing changing, nothing happening.
Well, still I think something would happen, because then, for example now, where we had a difference over the selection of the speaker.
Okay,
so we had a difference over the issue. What was meant by the drafters of the agreement over the selection. So we gave it back to them.
So it sounds like to me, correct me if I'm wrong here, that you work within a set of guidelines, strictures, but it sounds as well as if you and he sit down someplace once a week in the office that we've just done the interview with him in, and it's like a cake, and you literally chop the cake up, and you have areas of responsibility over there, and he has areas of responsibility over there. Is that literally how it works?
Yeah, it is.
And that's the best system for the country?
Well, that is what is in the agreement.
Is that the best system for the country?
Not necessarily, no.
How could that be improved?
Well, once we get to elections and we have a president elected by the people, the president would be mandated by the people per the constitution we would agree on.
Salva Kiir has just been talking to us. He was saying that there is, and I quote, a message of hate still lingering in this country that doesn't help. He says that message of hate came from you, and it still comes from you. And if it doesn't come from you anymore, it's still out there. There is a perception that it's still out there.
Well, since I came to Juba, I have been delivering one message with 4 issues. 1, stabilizing security in the country. This is important. 2, stabilizing the economy. 3, ensuring that the IDPs, the displaced, are resettled. 3, that we initiate the process of national reconciliation and healing. This is not a message of hate at all.
And between now and the elections in 2018, what are you doing as a man who's got a very real power base to make sure that the temperature of this debate is reduced? Because there are still killings going on. People are still being robbed. The country is overflowing with ammunition and guns.
Well, that's why I was saying that in my messages, the first one is stabilizing the security. And what I meant in it is, 1, lift the state of emergency. 2nd is to agree on cantonment of forces from both sides so that nobody goes about carrying a gun, and ensuring within the process also ensuring that Juba and other cities in South Sudan the security is taken over by the joint integrated police. The 3rd is to ensure that prisoners of war and political prisoners are released. With that, we stabilize the security. And it's important for anything else, even stabilization of the economy, because the bigger part in the stabilization of the economy is to remove this security element, the instability in the country.
You sound almost exactly like the president just now, and I'm not trying to devalue the momentum of what you're saying, but there seems to me that there's more inertia than momentum. You're in second gear, you've come up with good intentions, but there is a perception that there is an almost total lack of delivery. You're not a failed state, but you're not far off.
Well, if both of us and the rest who are partners in the transitional government of national unity work towards these objectives of stabilizing the security, we will definitely stabilize the economy by ensuring that our people increase their production. They would be first settled and then and secured. They will increase food production. If they can be food sufficient, the hard currency we're using for buying food will be used for other purposes.
Do you feel guilty about the war?
Anybody who has fought the war, in retrospect, you find that you regret a lot. The loss of souls, the loss of property, the destruction that has happened, the displacement is colossal. The regrets are there, but what do? You have to push forward to see that the country goes forward.
Who's the face of South Sudan that should go forward after the elections, you or Salva Kiir?
It will be decided by the people.
Who do you want the face to be?
If the people elect me, I would accept it.
In a sentence, how would you sum up, vote for me as president because ...
First, I will tell them there's prospects. The country will be prosperous. The country will be united. The country will be a democratic state. They would enjoy freedoms.
Post-elections, you're no place. You're in the political wilderness after the elections.
I'm at home.
You're at home.
I would be at home.
You're at home, channel hopping. Okay, yeah, watching the movie channel. You're at home. What do you do next?
Write my memoirs.
That takes 3 months. What do you do after 3 months?
Write another book.
Okay, it doesn't sell very well. Are you then a spent? Are you then a spent force politically?
Do other things.
Riek Machar, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks for talking to us on Talk to Al
Thank you.
Jazeera. Appreciate it.
Thank you.